Welcome back, everybody. Thanks again for watching the channel. Again, I truly appreciate all of my viewers. One of the last things I talked to you guys about in the continuation of my journey and everything that it's taken me to get to where I am, I talk about how in the beginning of 2023, my father passed away on January 9th. And a couple weeks later, one of our two dogs had to be put down as well. And we've had them for about 9 years. So that was really kind of heartbreaking. And we still had one dog at the time, and our dogs were brothers, and they lived together their whole lives. So we weren't sure if our other dog was going to be doing well after everything. And he seemed to be doing fine for the first couple months. And around April, he started whimpering and making a lot of noises. So we brought him to the vet, and come to find out he was growing a mass in his stomach. And it was like a cancerous mass, basically. And it was another decision that we had to decide, and we ended up having to put our second dog down. So the beginning of 2023 was really just a whole bunch of stuff happening at once. It was pretty tough. We had to keep a level head through everything. I don't know how I did it, but thank God I was able to just keep my head up during all of this. After our dogs passed, I decided, well, now that we don't have dogs in the house anymore, and the main reason why I never did before was because we had dogs, but I decided to start to fix our house back up. So, of course, having dogs in this house for 7 years, and with the floor, and the dogs got water everywhere, they ruined the hardwoods. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna refinish the floors. So after the dogs passed, we decided it's time to fix the house back up. Just a lot of cosmetic stuff, a bunch of maintenance that was deferred, and we realized, okay, we can actually do the floors now that the dogs aren't gonna ruin them. So I decided to start fixing the house up and making it up to the value that it really should be. So one day I'm outside doing the lawn, and me and Kaylee were outside, and I had an idea. It really struck me that due to, circumstances and the economic times we're in, the housing prices are astronomical. I figured the last thing I wanted to do was sell my house. I wanted to keep it and buy an investment property and just build up properties until I had enough to buy our forever home or build or whatever we decide to do. But when things happen in life, you kind of change your routes, you shift directions, and you kind of go, you ride the wave and you see where it takes you. And if an obstacle gets in the way, you find your way around it, right? So I thought, how else do we get money? I've cashed out one of my 401ks, used a lot of it for living, bought the photo booth with it. Where else can I find money? And one of the best things that I had was my house. I had a ton of equity in it. I realized, I think it's time to sell the house. So now you might be wondering, okay, economic times are tough. House prices are through the roofs. Okay, cool, you sell your house for top dollar, but now what? What do you do now? Okay, you got to go move back in with somebody or your parents or whatever, or find a spot in between until you find a new house. But what happened was in May of 2023, we decided to start fixing the house up, and we came up with the idea that we're going to sell the house. My main concern was that I'm not just going to sell my house, cash a bunch of money, and then just go buy another expensive house. It really doesn't make any sense. I had a great interest rate from when, the times were good, and, we were in the low threes. So, of course, during 2023, we're in the sevens and the eights. So it doesn't make sense to just sell your house. Okay, cool, you have money, but now you pay a ton more in your mortgage, and it's just a bunch of money going down the drain, right? So I decided that if we're gonna sell our single family house, we're gonna have to buy a multifamily. So I don't know if you guys are real familiar with real estate investing, but that's a thing called house hacking, where you live in a one unit and you have your other units pay your mortgage. So prior to 2020, it was very possible to find even a duplex and have the other tenants on the other side paying the full mortgage, and you basically live for free. I mean, worst case, you have to buy a 3 or a 4 family, and the other units are going to pay your full mortgage, and you live for free, and things are great. But due to the times, that's not really, I mean, you still can, you got to get real lucky and creative, but I figured, okay, well, at least if we buy a multifamily, we can then have most of our mortgage being paid for, if not all of it, and we can save more money, and that way we can save enough money to buy more real estate and keep the wheel rolling, right? So we were looking at houses all throughout 2023 while I was fixing the house up, mostly doing cosmetic things like the flooring and, renovating the bathroom, basically everything cosmetic just to fix it back up and bring it back up to niceness. So we're looking at houses on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com. We're checking out everything on the MLS, and we keep seeing this one really nice house. It's a historic house, and it was built in the 1700s, and it's beautiful. And the funny thing is, it popped up and it says multifamily. So when you're looking at it, it's an old Colonial, and it doesn't really look like a multifamily. When you're looking at the layout, it's hard to tell how exactly it's split up. So we kept looking at this house, and I remember my wife was like, wow, this place is beautiful. And I thought so too. And it had the nice vintage charm. It had all big, wide plank floors, and everything was beautiful. And I thought, yeah, it's a nice house. And she thought, oh, well, that'd be crazy, wouldn't it, if it was still on the market when we put our house up? So time goes on. We're fixing the house up. We get it listed in September of 2023. Now you're wondering again, oh, so you're going to sell your house, but what do you plan on doing? So there's something called the Hubbard Clause, and it's a contingency on the sale of your property that you won't sell the house unless you find another place to live. So basically, the people that are coming to look at the house know that they're not going to buy the house until we find a house to move into. We also did the same thing with our offer on a house, so it works that when you put an offer in on a house to buy it, it's contingent upon the fact that my primary residence that I'm living in now gets sold. So basically, everything works out that you can buy a house and sell your house at the same time and close all at one time. And so you sold your house and you bought a house at the exact same time. Now we have our house listed, and we're looking at houses, and now we're like, okay, we got to be serious and check these places out. And the first house we went to look at, of course, was that house, that old vintage 1700s house, historic Colonial, because it was still on the market. So my wife's like, we have to go and look at this. And I thought, I just don't want her to get her hopes up, because it was kind of at the top of our price range, and it was also only a duplex. So I'm like, yeah, it's a beautiful place. It's definitely worth taking a look at, but don't get your hopes up, because I want to have more income coming in from the house, basically, to help pay. If we buy this one, it's at the top of the budget, and it's still we're only going to get one rent. And I'm like, I know we're still going to have to pay as much as we were at the last house for the mortgage, if not maybe more. So regardless, I called up my broker, and I said, hey, can we go check this place out? We really want to see what it's like. So we go and we walk through the house, and I'm sold basically immediately. My wife knew what was going to happen. She said she was writing about it in her journal that we're going to buy this house. We're going to buy this house. So we're walking around, we're looking at it. I'm like, we can make this work. I know we can. And my wife, she came up with the best idea as well. She said, instead of doing like a long-term tenant and having somebody in the house at all times, we're never alone really, why don't we do Airbnb? And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, you know what, that is a good idea, because Airbnb is really big right now. It has been for years. Plenty of people trust Airbnb and use Airbnb rather than going to hotels. I mean, it's a good way to get into a place that's got character, that's different than just going to your average run-of-the-mill hotel, right? And so I thought, you know what, that's a great idea. We have potential of making even more than what we could get a month for rent. And we also have the freedom of blocking days off, so that way we can have the house to ourselves when we want, say Christmas time, New Year's, all that kind of stuff. So the way that this house is split up is it's a unit on the bottom floor and a unit on the top floor. So it's an up and down duplex. So again, you have somebody here all the time, you're going to hear them walking around. If they invite people over, it's not the best living, and at the same time, it's not the worst. I mean, we grew up in single family houses, and I personally never lived in an apartment or lived in a multifamily, so I never had anybody else around when I was living. So I kind of thought, you know what, the Airbnb is a great idea, because then all the times that people aren't here, it's just like we have the entire house to ourselves. So we decided, okay, we put an offer in on the house, and our offer was accepted. So we were pumped. We were like, wow, this is really happening. So on September 29th, we closed on both properties. We sold our house, and then we bought this house all on the same day, and we ended up with a check at the end as well, because we used the proceeds from the sale of the house and all the equity that we had in there to pay the down payment and everything else, and we were still left with money at the end of the day. So it was a great deal. And again, I'm super grateful to be here where I am. One of these videos, I'll take a nice walk around, and I'll show you guys the property. I'll show you the Airbnb and everything, and so you can get a feel of what it's like here. You know, it's about a 3,000 square foot Colonial on about a half acre with a nice 3-bay garage, you know, which is perfect because I'm a car guy myself. So that's what happened in 2023. You looked at the beginning of 2023, it was just trauma almost. It was just bad stuff. I lost my father, we lost our dogs. I mean, again, I said it in a previous video, but the doors were closing. And when 3 doors closed like that within a period of 3 or 4 months, we knew that something big was coming, and we knew that another door was opening. We didn't know what at the time, and it was almost the epiphany of selling the house that made me realize, I think this is what it is. You know, now we don't have the dogs, so we don't have to take care of them and be there and for them all the time. So now I'm able to work on the house, fix things up, and I don't mind moving into a multifamily, because mind you, we had Mastiff Pit Bull mixes. So they were about 130 pounds apiece, 2 brothers. So imagine having 2 giant Mastiff Pit Bull mixes living in a multifamily with you. I'm sure you wouldn't be too happy about it, right? So I didn't really want to move into a multifamily with the dogs. So of course, as those doors closed, the other ones opened. Well, now I can move into a multifamily, right? So that's what we did in 2023. And we got the Airbnb going in about December. And I think we got our first Airbnb guests on December 23rd, and my birthday is Christmas Eve, so they left on Christmas Eve, and it was kind of like, you know, a nice little treat to be like, well, we got our first guests. You know, this is where I say the reason why I'm going to retire is because I'm building multiple sources of income. So now I have my current job, you know, I'm a sheet metal worker. I also have the photo booth business, and I also now have the Airbnb. Granted, the Airbnb doesn't necessarily make money, it more so supplements my income for the mortgage. But regardless, I'm still building equity with this house, and I don't have to pay the entire mortgage myself. So I was able to substantially upgrade my lifestyle without substantially upgrading my financial burden, you know, without getting myself into a pickle or getting myself to be just so close to the edge. You know, it all happened with a mindset change though, really. Most people, when stuff like this happens, when bad things happen, it sends them in a spiral. It sends them thinking about bad things, and in turn, bad things happen, because when you think negatively, negative things occur. It's a weird phenomenon in the world, but you can read about it, you can watch tons of videos on it. I mean, there's so much stuff that talks about your mind and how your mind is really the one thing that gets you to where you want to be. If you can believe it, it'll happen. If you can think it and you can come up with it in your mind, I mean, you've heard it countless times. So basically, don't ever let something get in your way if it's what you truly want. It'll happen as long as you believe it. I'm going to leave it there for this one. Again, I think I gave you guys a good sense of what happened in 2023. You know, losing my father, losing my dogs, it just happened so fast. But just like bad things can happen so fast, so can good things, because very shortly after that, my life stepped up a whole lot. And like I said, it was like my father and my dogs made way for more for me and my wife. You know, unfortunately, that's how it has to happen. You know, people aren't here forever. Dogs don't live forever. Our parents don't live forever. You know, I'm just lucky that I was able to be with my dad for as long as he was here for me, you know, and be able to take care of him and take care of my dogs and enjoy the time we all had together, you know. So again, don't take that for granted, because you never know when that time might be gone too. So many reasons why I want to retire early, so I can enjoy my life, you know, and I'm sure you guys would love to do the same. So thank you guys very much for watching. Again, if this stuff is interesting to you, if you like listening to my stories, think about maybe subscribing to my channel here and watching all my videos, and hopefully I have some good insight for you and everything. Again, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.